Welcome back to Basics of Unity. This is where we left off with our three primitive objects. And like I said, up to this point, we haven't done anything very special. We've looked at our camera and our lights and our objects that we can add. We are now going to look at a few things that we can do to make our scene a little more interesting. And we will build on this in later tutorials for sure. But the first thing I wanted to show you guys is how to change the material of the object that you're working with. All right. Again, if this object is coming from another program, like let's say Blender or Maya or a different 3D software, then the textures will come included with that object. And again, there'll be a video for that as well. But let's say we want to just make a material within Unity that we can apply to our objects. It's pretty simple. So one good habit to get into is down here in your assets. I like to organize everything by the type of assets that I have. So if I'm making a material, for example, then what I'm going to do is right click here and I'm going to create a folder. It's the very first option. So again, right click, create folder. And I'm going to call this folder materials because I want to store all my materials within it. All right, I'm going to go inside there. I'm going to select an object. Actually, I don't have to select an object first. What I can do is now that I'm inside of the materials folder, I can right click and create a material. And you'll see material is sort of halfway down. You'll notice there's a lot of things you can create. And I don't know if we'll get through all of these, but you know, maybe by the end we'll have most of them. But we're going to go through material. And so when I create a material, what I get is a brand new material. I'm going to call this material 1. Okay. And you'll notice with that material selected, I've got all sorts of options along the side that I can add to this material. So albedo right now, actually before that, you can see the rendering mode. Is it cutout? Is it a fade? Is it transparent? Opaque just means it's a regular sort of physical object or physical material. So albedo is the color of the object. So I can set the color to whatever I want it to be. So let's say I'm going to go with a red. All right. Metallic is how metallic this object is. Is it a metal object or is it more of like a plastic or like a rubbery type of an object? Okay, so you can decide that. Smoothness, how smooth is the surface of this object? So if I want it reflective, then I could bring my smoothness all the way up and you can see how it reflects everything. If I want it to be very flat, like let's say a wood type of an object that doesn't reflect anything, then I would bring this all the way down. And the source allows you to change the alpha for either of those. You won't see much of a difference. You can switch between them, you know, but you can easily make these settings. These are kind of like source images. Now, there are things like normal maps and height maps and occlusion and all these complicated stuff, which I'm not going to get into right now. Emission is kind of cool because what emission will let you do is it'll allow the object to actually glow. So it could be like a light source or something like that. Secondary maps, you can have detail maps, normal maps, all sorts of stuff. And you can control the tiling and the offset and all that stuff within here. I'm not going to get into this advanced stuff. But what I want to show you is once you have a material created, that you can basically select an object in your scene. It doesn't matter which one. Maybe I'll start with the sphere. And I can take that material. I got a couple options. I could drag it and drop it to the object itself like this. Or I can drag it and drop it over on the right-hand side here as a component of that object as well. Okay, so there's two different ways you can do it. You can also drag and drop it on the objects in the list here too, because that'll work as well. All right, but the easiest way is just to drop it on the object in the scene. Okay, so now you can see that the circle is using material 1. And the cool thing about this is everywhere where material 1 is being used, it's referencing this material in this folder. So if I click material 1, and let's say I decide later, I want to change the color, everything that's using that color will change, or that material, sorry, it will change. All right, and you can see how now the color has changed, even though I didn't really change it. But in the game object, game view, we can see that object now has that material. So let's go and make a few different colors here. So I'm going to create a few more materials. I can copy, if I don't want to create a new one, let's just delete that. I can duplicate or copy this material as well. And I can do that on the Mac by holding Option. And you can drag a copy out. Okay, just remember to rename it to something different so that, you know, Unity doesn't freak out that it's got, I don't even think it'll let you name something the same. So I'm going to go red. I'm going to be pretty generic here. Green. Hold Option if you're on a Mac. Otherwise, you're going to have to right click and create. Or on a PC, it might be the Alt key. I'm going to just rename it to Material 3. We'll go with blue on this one. So red, green, and blue. And then I'm going to apply it just by dropping it onto these objects like so. All right. You'll see that when we go to the game view, those objects have been set. The material is now on those objects. All right, so that is materials. Now, again, there's a lot more to materials. We could use something like a picture as a material instead of a color. All right, and so we'll get into that later. But for now, that is how you set up basic colored materials for objects within Unity.